Hello people, I'm the Real Comic Book Gamer. Today I'm going to be talking about an SJW comics journalist known as Benjamin H. Bailey. He currently writes for Nerdist, and he wrote before for IGN and a bunch of other places. And he's also written some comics, some masterpieces such as Sonic the Hedgehog and Rise Comics Against Bullying. Now, the reason I'm talking about this guy is because I followed him on Twitter. I don't remember why, I must have followed him a long time ago, and he tweeted out something that I just thought was pretty stupid. He tweeted out saying, "Skipped a comic I was looking forward to. Once I saw the artist was somebody I refused to support." Oh well. And then I was just a little confused. I was like, I wonder what he's talking about. I bet he's talking about Ethan Van Sciver. The reason Ethan Van Sciver popped up in my mind is because he's one of the few openly conservative guys in comics. Most people in comics are just very left-leaning, to where Ethan Van Sciver is one of the more conservative guys in comics, and not very many people are open about that at all. So I thought, yeah, I bet it's Ethan Van Sciver. And then his next tweet confirmed it. He tweeted out saying, "Guess I'll just find out about this Dawnbreaker fella another time." So he robbed himself of a good book, because I read Dawnbreaker, it's really good, purely because Ethan Van Sciver did the art. And I don't get it. He's so mad about him being conservative, because he could play the whole Nazi card like a lot of people have, because in the past, like a while ago, a whole thing happened with Ethan Van Sciver where a bunch of people thought he was a Nazi. They brought so-called proof saying he's a Nazi. One of them was that his signature looks like a swastika. If you look at his signature, it looks nothing like a swastika. It was just a bunch of people like Sarah Silverman who just see swastikas everywhere. When she saw those construction markers and she thought it was swastikas, it's a bunch of people like that who are just like, Nazis are everywhere. Nazis a new boogeyman. That's basically what it was. And Ethan Van Sciver came out and just explained everything. It was like, oh, all that makes sense. Turns out he's not a Nazi at all. And just a lot of people were just confused. Even Rich Johnston from Bleeding Cool made an article saying, yeah, Ethan Van Sciver's not a Nazi. And Rich Johnston himself is a pretty big SJW. So you see there that even when a huge SJW can admit it, that yeah, Ethan Van Sciver's not a Nazi. And so basically just a lot of people, it seemed, were mad at Ethan Van Sciver for being conservative, and then they just waited till they had anything to pounce on with, and then they did, and it was sort of like a smear campaign by a bunch of different people, and that's how I saw it. And then he was able to just explain everything away, and everything's fine. Because obviously, if he was an actual Nazi, DC would have fired him, but obviously DC looked at everything and was like, yeah, he's not a Nazi at all. And so they didn't fire him, because as you can tell right now. So yeah, but you still have people like Benjamin H. Bailey who seem mad that he's not a Nazi. That's what I think. I think he's mad that it turns out Ethan Van Sciver's just a normal guy, not a Nazi, and so that's why he's not supporting him. Otherwise, why wouldn't he support him? He's not supporting him because he's conservative, and I think that's why, and I think it's just stupid, especially when you have a great book like Dawnbreaker, because Dawnbreaker is part of the Metal event, which is the creation of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. So Ethan Van Sciver just did the art for this book. He had pretty much nothing else to do with it, because this is the baby of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. They just had Ethan Van Sciver come on for this book because Ethan Van Sciver is the premier Green Lantern artist. He draws the best Green Lantern. I said this multiple times, and so it makes sense why you'd have him come on, because Green Lantern is the Dawnbreaker is the Batman Green Lantern. It's a really good book, by the way. That Batman Green Lantern is brutal. I loved it, and I can't wait to see more from Dawnbreaker. But yeah, that one issue, if you haven't read it, it was great. I don't know why you would rob yourself of the experience of reading it. It's great. But anyways, yeah, I think there's sort of a problem with a bunch of like different people getting offended by things and just calling for someone to get fired. When the whole Ethan Van Sciver thing happened a while ago, I put my 2 cents in on Twitter saying I just thought it was stupid and we should wait for evidence. And once stuff actually did come forward and Ethan Van Sciver explained it, it all made sense. And I'm consistent with that. I said the same thing with Aubrey Sitterson. He's the guy who's currently writing G.I. Joe. I don't think he's been kicked off the book yet, but you had a lot of people saying he should be fired from IDW because he said some terrible stuff about 9/11. He said something like, if you weren't in New York for 9/11, like when it actually happened, then you shouldn't be able to mourn it, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing big time. It was something along those lines. And when that happened, that's awful. It's a terrible thing to say, but I don't think he should be fired for that, because I think when you start firing people for words and offending people, that is a very slippery slope, and I don't think you should do that. I just don't. That's how I believe, and I don't think Ethan Van Sciver should have been fired for what happened with him, and I don't think Aubrey Sitterson should be fired for what happened with him. Aubrey Sitterson should be fired for terrible stories and bad sales, but not for what he said, because there was a lot of people calling for him to be fired, and I went on Twitter and said that no, I don't think so, because it's a very slippery slope, and I feel like you have to have some consistency, because you have a lot of people that are like, oh, screw these stupid SJWs for saying this stuff and all this other things, and like, oh, so they're mad at Chuck Dixon for writing Bang Conquest and coming back to DC, but then with Aubrey Sitterson, they're like, fire Aubrey Sitterson. It's like, no, you can't. I don't think you can really have it like that. I feel like you need to be more consistent, and that's what I believe on this, and I think it's kind of stupid to rob yourself of a good book like Dawnbreaker. Now, by not reading Aubrey Sitterson, you're not robbing yourself of anything. He's terrible. I'm personally a big G.I. Joe fan. Some of my favorite stuff was the old Larry Hama stuff, and Chuck Dixon and Mike Costa. I think those guys were fantastic at writing G.I. Joe. Larry Hama's still writing G.I. Joe, but I feel like he's kind of run out of ideas, and he's not really the same Larry Hama anymore. He's still a legend in comics and everything, but right now he's just kind of, it seems like he doesn't really know what to do with G.I. Joe, because he's already done so much that it's kind of hard to do anything new with G.I. Joe. But anyways, one of the things I thought was funny with this whole Benjamin H. Bailey thing were the replies. Someone said, wow, I had no idea Van Sciver was such a piece of shit. How? What did he say in that tweet that proved anything against Ethan Van Sciver? All he said was that he just refused to support the artist. Nothing, but because this guy said it, and this guy follows a journalist, he's like, oh wow, I can't believe he's such a piece of garbage. And then there's another reply to the tweet where he's saying he wouldn't buy the book because he wouldn't support the artist. Someone said, I legit hate when I have to do that. Yeah, guys, don't you just hate it when someone comes up to you, puts a gun to your head and said, yeah, you can't buy this comic? Don't you just hate it? Oh wait, that doesn't happen ever. This guy chose not to read the book. No one forced him not to. I do believe I've said this before, there's a big difference between the art and the artist. You can separate the art from the artist. You have something like Hacksaw Ridge, which is a movie I absolutely love, and Mel Gibson said a lot of terrible things. If you listen to like those phone calls and things he said to his girlfriend, and a lot of anti-Semitic remarks that he made that are awful, but I can still watch Hacksaw Ridge and enjoy it and have a good time, even though Mel Gibson was the man behind it who directed it. I can still enjoy that movie without being like, oh, I can't watch it because all those terrible things he did. At least that's for me. And same thing with even a lot of other people, like with Mark Waid. I personally think he's an idiot in real life. I disagree with him on a lot of things. When he actually had a Twitter, I don't know if he's back to Twitter yet, but he like got rid of his Twitter anyways. When he used to have a Twitter, he just used to say some of the most asinine things that were just so stupid. But that doesn't make me enjoy Kingdom Come any less, or be like, oh, I'm gonna boycott his books. No, he had a great run on Daredevil. He did Kingdom Come was great. He's done some really good stuff. So that doesn't make me enjoy it just because I disagree with him politically. And I said the same thing with like Alan Moore, who worships snakes and is part of a snake cult. I'm not with that at all. I think that's really just like messed up. But I still enjoy Alan Moore's work. I still think he's a genius when it comes to writing. And so that's why I don't get it when someone like this guy will boycott Ethan Van Sciver. It's like, okay, you'll read a guy that worships snakes and is part of a snake cult, but Ethan Van Sciver being conservative, oh no, that's where I draw the line. That's where I won't support someone because he's conservative. It just shows how stupid these people are when you have a journalist like this that he won't read a conservative, but he'll read a book made by a guy that's part of a snake cult. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. It just, it's so stupid, and I think it just shows the stupidity of these people. But anyways, that's just my 2 thoughts on the situation. Like I said, I saw this on Twitter, so I decided to make a video on it. I've talked about Ethan Van Sciver a lot in this video. He made his return to Twitter not too long ago, and he's just been all about the fans. I feel like over his break from Twitter, he's been talking about how he's watched a bunch of YouTube videos and things, and I feel like he saw that there was a gap to fill where you had a lot of creators that were just talking about politics on Twitter and everything, and so when fans would go there, just be a bunch of people talking about politics, and now he's all about the fans. If you go to his Twitter, he's probably the most least political comic pro on Twitter. It's all about the fans, and it's great. You should definitely follow him on Twitter, and he's got a new comic book channel that he just started where he's going to be talking, like showing you how he does his drawings, and also he's done some behind the scenes like director's cut of his comic books. He's talking about how some things went down, and it's really interesting. One that I really liked was where he talked about a Catwoman comic that I had never heard of before, and it was a book that led to him getting Green Lantern Rebirth, which was the first book I read by Ethan Van Sciver. And so I'll have that link in the description. You should definitely check out his channel. I'll play a little clip here. This clip had me dying when I was watching his video.
And she got fed up with him and blew his head off. That looks like Tupac Shakur. Did I use Tupac as reference there? I hope not.
But yeah, I'll have a link in the description to his channel. Please go check it out and subscribe. He's made some really good content so far. I can't wait to see what he does next. And yeah, just ever since Ethan Van Sciver came back from his break from Twitter, he's been a man on a mission that's kind of just there for the fans, and it's really awesome. He does like live streams of his drawings on Twitters and stuff, and he's giving them away to fans, and it's just really cool. So yeah, you guys should definitely follow him on Twitter and go subscribe to his channel, which will be linked in the description. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of this whole just calling out for comic pros to be fired purely because of words. I think it's kind of stupid and just makes no sense. And yeah, just please let me know what you think of these SJW journalists. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, I grew up with the prenup. Mama said keep my C up. Now noticing I'm getting caught cracker and getting beat up, but I stayed up long nights, working hard on my craft. Gave a fuck about the bullies or anyone in my past.